Welcome to the 80s versus 90s podcast, where we react and review everything from the 80s and 90s.
Hey everyone, welcome to the 80s versus 90s podcast. This is Jesse. I'm here with Jason, and today we're going to be reviewing and watching some old video games. Both have a similar theme. Would you like to talk a little bit about that, Jason?
Sure. They are, I guess you would call them simulation type games. Mm-hmm. So mine is called M.U.L.E, and I just want to give a brief short because I don't want to give anything away, but it is a financial type game, and the goal at the end is to have the most assets, and that's all I'm going to say.
Okay. So early 80s.
The video that we are watching of gameplay is 1984.
Okay. Mine is Yoot Tower.
Yoot?
Yeah.
Yoot.
Like... Yoot. Y-O-O-T.
Okay.
No idea why.
Okay.
It's just Yoot Tower. Some people know Sim Tower or Sim Tower 2. I think Sega was the one that put those out. Anyway, Yoot Tower is similar to those with a different twist. I played it when I was in the Philippines, and some people here in the States had it too. I had a friend named Christian. He had the game Yoot Tower, so I know it's not just me who was playing this, but it would have been like 1998, 1999. Okay. That's kind of the heyday of
Yoot
Tower. But similar qualities too. I mean, the money making aspect of it and entrepreneurship principles are in there. So we'll get to that one when we come around to the 90s and Yoot Tower. But let's start off with M.U.L.E. What are we watching here?
We're watching gameplay of it, a full game of it.
Okay, someone actually playing through the game.
Someone actually playing from start to finish through the game.
Perfect.
It's only about 20 minutes to finish one game. So
awesome. Well, we'll watch it, and we'll be right back.
All right, we just finished watching the most incredible game of all time, M.U.L.E. Jesse, my first question to you about M.U.L.E. is, what did you think of the theme song?
Wow. Beautifully orchestrated. I like the chromatic walk-up.
Yeah.
Bum, 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 bum.
It's catchy after a while. So basically, I'll just give a brief description of what we saw. Was very early 80s, almost could be late 70s graphics. Mm-hmm. Definitely when Nintendo came out in the mid 80s, the graphics were a little different than this. This is, think along the lines of, it's a little bit better looking than Pong, the original.
For sure.
But it's not, even the color like of Pac-Man and stuff was way better than this. So
Pac-Man looks like 3D.
Right. So this was rough, graphic-wise. Very, very, very rough. There was some color to it, though. And there's characters that are kind of aliens from different planets, including a humanoid. You can kind of tell the difference between the characters, some of them.
Yeah. Yeah, so my first thing, seeing the little guys that you choose, the characters.
Yeah.
Since it is kind of limited in what they're able to do, I actually really love the limitations and seeing the little characters and even the humanoid and what he looks like compared to some of the aliens, and one kind of looked like E.T.
Yeah.
I actually really liked it. But it's hard at first when you're looking at it. It just kind of looks like someone drawing a scribble and saying, here's one character, and then another scribble, here's another character, and you just have to distinguish between the scribbles. But once you look at it for a little while, I was able to finally tell the difference between the humanoid and the computer players, and even the mule thing. I was confused at first as to what that was,
right,
comparative to the human dragging it around.
Yeah, it was a big mule, but they were on a different planet.
Yeah.
Like compared to, it was definitely, wasn't sure. When I first saw it, obviously the game's called M.U.L.E. It didn't look like a mule to me.
Yeah, which,
whatever.
They had limited capability. I honestly, watching this gameplay, I really enjoyed the thought of playing it. It was hard for me to get into it at first because it's, like I said, when you're looking at a bunch of things that you don't recognize, and the interface was kind of brutal at first.
Oh, yeah.
But this is totally something, if I understood all the parts with all the buy and sell, it was interesting.
Yeah, it is. For me, watching this again, they came out with an app on the iOS devices for
No
it.
way.
So it was a Kickstarter campaign a guy did about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe a little longer. It took him 3 years to build it.
Is it out?
Yeah, it's out. I think I paid $5 for it. I have it on my iPad, so I'll let you try it on there.
No way.
And
Yeah.
it's pretty similar to this. He updated a few of the graphics to look a little bit better, but it still looks like that. But
So you first played this game, you were saying.
oh yes, I played this game. When I first introduced this game, I was probably 8 or 9, so it would have been like 82, 83, and I played on a Commodore 64, which is amazing. That's all I'm gonna say about the Commodores.
What did 64 stand for? Do you know?
It was bits. So there was a 128, but couldn't afford a 128, so we got the Commodore 64. There was also a lower model called a VIC-20. So we did have a VIC-20, and I remember on that, game-wise, you basically played Pong or something like that.
Yeah.
And then the Commodore 64, you could do a few other things on. And then around 84, 85, when Nintendo came out, they came out with M.U.L.E on there. And then I just switched to that because it was just so much easier with a
It's so new.
It was new, and I felt like it was the same game, but I felt like it was just easier. Well, I think it was just cool using a controller as opposed to
Yeah.
a keyboard. As a kid, I thought, oh, this is cool. So after that, I didn't play again on a Commodore 64, just the Nintendo. But again, for me personally, it brought back nostalgia that I definitely want to play again.
Isn't it crazy too how when you hear a startup
Mm-hmm.
noise or that intro music, it just rushes back every thought of
Yes.
what that was to you? Because even I was testing out the video for Yoot Tower. We're gonna watch a playthrough of that as well, and just even that startup sound, it brings you back to sitting in that chair
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and your siblings sitting around you just watching you play it and waiting for their turn to
Yes.
to play it. My brother and I. My brother lives less than a mile from me now, which is cool because we used to live a sea apart. He used to live in the Philippines, and I was here in the States, and now we live less than a mile from each other. But we were talking about how funny it is that most of our childhood was spent. I mean, not most of our childhood. It seems like most of our childhood was spent watching each other play games and waiting for our turn. And
Yeah.
it was so fun. And we realized we still do it. Like we have American Truck Simulator, and we've been doing turns on American Truck Simulator, watching each other. And I'm 30 years old, still
Watching
still
your
watching.
brother.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And one thing that you said, which rings so true, is when I hit play for this video on you and I heard the music, I went back to the bedroom I was in when I first started playing it, where my this little computer is with this little screen, this Commodore 64, and like I remember everything about the desk it was at, about where I had to put my drink next to it, and just being so excited. It was my turn. My brother is the one who introduced me to this game. And my brother is 9 years older than I am. So there was a big gap there. So when I would have played this at 8, he would have been 17. So he'd have been like a junior, senior in high school.
That would have been helpful to have someone walk you through it too.
It was very helpful. The hard part is when you have a 17-year-old and an 8-year-old, the 8-year-old didn't get to play a whole lot.
True.
So it wasn't
That's fair.
me waiting to take my turn. It was me watching my brother. And when he left to go out with his friends, then I took my turn. But when he went off, he actually went into the Air Force out of high school. He took the Commodore 64 with him.
That's brutal.
And I didn't have a Nintendo right away, or I didn't have a Nintendo at all, actually. I ended up getting a different gaming console later. But so luckily, my best friend had a Nintendo and
Like
M.U.L.E.
go to the Blockbuster and rent a Nintendo for a weekend.
I guess I could have done that. I never thought about that because my best friend had a Nintendo, and I was over at his house all the time. I could
Yeah.
walk to his house, and he loved the game M.U.L.E. too. And you could play
Perfect.
2 players on there.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Multiplayer. So
Look at that.
we would play M.U.L.E. all the time. So I felt like I won with that.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So your brother didn't let you play multiplayer with him?
Oh no! I think one time he did, but I'm sure at 8 years old, this concept of buying high and selling and trying to get the market price up and having the most money, to me, I was probably putting whatever symbols looked the coolest. Probably why I also picked the characters I picked.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that character looks cool, which I guess we do anyway. But when it came to actually trying to win the game, I think I don't remember ever winning until I played the computer myself.
Yeah. That makes sense.
He would play on a hard level because we watched the beginner video. So and the hard level's hard. When you play in the hardest level, it's rare that you can beat a computer player.
Interesting.
Makes it fun though.
So, would you say that Mule was like widely played, like most?
No.
No, it was
I would say it
pretty
was
niche.
a game that had a cult following.
Okay.
I mean, if you look it up, I mean, the Kickstarter did well, but like, no. I mean, because, the main thing in the mid 80s was Nintendo, there was the Marios and stuff just blew that away. And kids were like,
I can
saw
imagine.
Mario once, and it's like Mario, Mario, Mario. This you see once. If you're introduced to it by a friend, you're never.
Well, just looking at the interface of it, I mean, Mario's hard to beat versus, something that's a little more simple and
Yeah. And sim games weren't that popular back then. They were fairly new. I mean, I don't remember when Sim City came out and when that kind of blew up the world and stuff, but this was fairly new, so there wasn't action to it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're literally just staring at the screen, just making some choices. So.
Yeah, the pacing was a little slow at first, but yeah, once I kind of got introduced to what was happening and the timers, and I actually really liked the concept of it, and I could see myself downloading it on my iPad or something. And
so that goes to the answer for this part which we always ask is, with our other shows, we said, would you watch it again? The question is, would you try this game since you've never played it?
yeah, absolutely. I think this is actually probably one of the things that I jump into the most of all the things you've shared with me, just based on what I would play as a kid and the concepts that are present. I love tycoon type games where you're trying to make money and have assets, and I don't know, something about that just rings a bell. So
Yep. And I too will probably play it tonight on my iPad.
yeah, sweet. Well, we'll watch Yoot Tower and we'll be right back.
Yep.
Okay, so we just watched a playthrough video of Yoot Tower, and actually we watched a couple of ones because the first guy was pretty bad. So found a second video. The guy kind of described a little bit of the game, but first impressions, Jason, what did you think?
First impression, I'm familiar with tower games, even though I've never heard of Yoot Tower.
Yeah.
My first impression was the interface to me was easy compared to when I tried to get into like the Sim Cities.
Yeah.
I'll say that because I think I would get overwhelmed with the Sim City is how much on the little toolbar, there'd be so much stuff you had to do. Where this, it was easier to understand.
Yeah, so the left toolbar, things are unlocked as you go on, and so you don't have access to even see half of what's there at the beginning.
I like that.
So it does help you not get overwhelmed when you're...
I'd feel overwhelmed with the other for sure.
Yeah, and so kind of for those of you who have never seen Yoot Tower, or maybe have never played like a sim tower kind of game, basically what it is you build a skyscraper, and in that skyscraper you can put offices, you can put restaurants, and all sorts of different things, condos. It depends on what's available in the game. And in fact, in the later rounds, you can even put stadiums on top of your building. So you can have a
Like
baseball stadium
a baseball stadium on top of your
tower. Yeah, and it brings in a ton of people, and it's crazy. So there's a lot of different options. But you basically build this tower, and you're the manager or CEO of the tower. So you select budgets for different things. If you want rooms in a hotel, you select the pricing on the hotel, you select the traffic flow. You can get as detailed as you want to, and you can also just, I want a hotel, here's a hotel, and I want a restaurant, here's a restaurant. But literally even hiring certain people and hiring people within your tower to go, and you can check up on like specific people every day and see where they're going and seeing if they're happy with the place. And
I think that's what I'd like the most about it is the interaction with the people that you can. Reminds me, I loved Roller Coaster Tycoon, so you knew if your guests were happy or not.
Exactly.
Also, I think what I liked about it is you could have one tower that had all those things you said. So you could have a hotel, you could have an office building, you could have a mall type situation.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you're playing 3 or 4 games in one tower instead of a Sim City where there's a lot to keep track of, or there's games that are just building a mall.
Yeah.
I've seen those before, and those are kind of fun too. But this gives you the option to do all of it. So I did like it because of that. The graphics were what would be expected for. You said what year did you play this? Probably
99, probably
Yeah.
2000.
very similar to the graphics of any of the games that time. And what platform did you play this on?
A PC, home PC.
Home PC.
Yeah.
Was it ever available on anything else? You think?
Maybe so. This was just like the height of my PC gaming.
Okay.
Like Riven and Myst and all those. King's Quest. Played all those, and this was kind of right in the middle of it. Right before I discovered Command and Conquer and Red Alert and Age of Empires and things like that. This was kind of sandwiched in between. So PC was kind of just my main deal.
Yeah, I did. And another thing I liked is how detailed you could get, as far as you could have one room next to another room be different prices.
Yeah.
So I do like that there was a detail. So when you put in stuff like, I think there was an Orange Julius,
Yes.
you picked a price of what they're selling stuff for there?
They have options that pop up, and you can even select what is sold.
Okay.
So some of the places you can add hot dogs, or if it doesn't sell well, the satisfaction goes down, your revenue goes down just because of an item you added or a person you hired. Or
And then you can replace that with something else?
you can totally demolish it and
Okay.
in that space put something new. And
Okay.
a lot of it's based on traffic flow.
Right.
So those restaurants do really well next to elevators and escalators where they're kind of entering or leaving the escalator at that Orange Julius. But then the hotels, you don't want to put a room next to it because then it's noisy and they get angry. And yeah, it's an interesting thing, especially as, I was probably 11, 12 when I started playing this. And so it kind of gave me some of those instincts of even setting up merch tables for my band later on, and things like, where's the traffic going? Where are the eyes going on the table? And maybe if I sell this, people, the people will turn red.
Yeah. Which sometimes they did. And maybe when you go to a hotel, not to ask for a room next to the elevator.
Yeah, true.
I like that it gave you a few options of locations on where to build. You
Yeah.
had mentioned that. So like there was Hawaii, there was Tokyo, and then there was
Like a waterfall.
Waterfall. And you said you always picked Tokyo because the restrictions on how high you could build the building weren't there, basically. You could build a really high
100
building.
stories. The other ones had more restriction, like the waterfall is only 2 stories above. And I know that there are different pros and cons, like Hawaii. Obviously, it's next to the beach, and there's some cool things that happen there.
Can you charge more in Hawaii than you could in Tokyo, so to speak? Because it's tourism, maybe? Or
For beach views, yes.
Okay.
If you're on the beach. And there are some things you can build into the water later on when you unlock things.
Okay.
So, yeah, if you have a hotel with some suites next to the water, you can charge way more. And it's super nerdy when you get really detailed like that.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what sucks you in and makes you want to play it again. And even like there's little things like you had to build a security thing every few, not 100 feet, but a couple at least in your building, so that if there are threats that come into your thing. There's a couple of people who took hostages. I remember a bomb threat come in one time, and you have to find these guys in the midst of all your people running around, and it can get crazy. Yeah, there's a lot of fun memories with it.
So I guess we have to ask the question, would we want to play this again?
I mean, I've been really wanting to. My brother has it.
Okay.
So he has it on his computer, and next time I go over there, you can guarantee I'm going to, instead of an American Truck Simulator,
Going to be playing you.
Yoot Tower.
So since I've never played it before, what won me over for wanting to try this game is I love simulation games like that, and played a lot of them. And they can, to me, I guess like they can get boring. The games nowadays are so much faster paced.
Yeah.
But the fact that there are security alerts, that people would get mugged, and you have to pay attention to that. You have to look for it. And you said there could be a terrorist threat or something, and this person shows up, and you have to find this blue person walking around.
Yeah.
I like the added of that. That there
you
is a
can't
danger
just sit around and
make money.
make money. There are threats and there are things to your business that that happen that make it interesting. And
I feel like there's a lot happening in this one game, even though you're only building one tower. I feel like there's a lot happening. Now, you could build more than one tower, I guess, right? Or no?
well, I think the lobby, I don't know if you can build separate lobbies.
Separate lobbies. All has to be connected to one.
To a lobby of sort, yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, no, I think because I definitely will play it. We'll try it. Don't know if I'll ever get my hands on it.
I'll talk to my brother. Maybe he can let us play some Yoot Tower before
that would be nice
one night.
That would be nice of Dylan.
Yeah. So after watching both games, do we have a winner between the 80s and 90s?
I have an opinion.
Okay.
You want mine first?
I would love to hear your opinion.
This would be the first episode where I think it's a draw.
Yeah.
And maybe because they're similar type sim games.
So first week with a draw.
For a draw for sure, because I like them both equally.
Okay.
How about you?
I was legitimately thinking a tie as well.
Were you really?
And here's not graphics, 90s wins.
Of course.
100%. But
intro music I give to the 80s.
Well, it's hard to beat those bleeps and bloops.
That's right.
But here's the thing. The concept of both games, it's just masked with different graphics. I love the concept of both. I would play both. And I would go as far as to say even the fact that it's so limited in the 80s kind of makes it more fun for the imagination to take, I don't know, more control. So
yeah,
I agree.
I agree.
All right. So thanks for listening. Auf Wiedersehen, as they say in some other place.